Welcome to the introductory video part 4 for the Warehauser open source project. This video is intended for software developers interested in learning how Warehauser can simplify and enhance the development of warehouse management systems, or WMSs. Warehauser is published at github.com/warehauser/warehauser and is offered under the Apache 2.0 license. It is developed using the Python programming language and the Django web development framework. It is assumed you are familiar with both these technologies, but if not, we provide some useful links in the description of this video where you can find more information and access their broad community for support. In the previous video, we learned how to create a WMS using Warehauser. To recap, we now have all our definitions declared and the initial environment set up. This includes a warehouse building in which we nested a loading area and a single bin. In this video, I will demonstrate how to use events and event processing to manage product moving through our demo warehouse. I have my integrated development environment visual code open, and within that I have a terminal in which my virtual environment is currently active, and I am currently in the Warehauser base project directory. It is best practice to create, update, and delete warehouses and products through events. We do this by defining event defs with an optional value for the procname field. From our previous video, we declared 5 event defs, as you can see here. Recall how we declared 3 of these event defs with a procname value. The procname value is a reference to a Python function. To understand where this function should be declared, first let's look at the warehauser/settings.py file. If you search for the event_logic_app setting, you will see that by default this is commented out. If this setting is not supplied, its default value is set to logic. Either way, this setting is the name of the subfolder within the Warehauser project base directory in which all event processing logic is dynamically loaded. Within this directory, you will need to create a subfolder with the name of your client, which in our case is demo. And within the demo directory, we place all our code. Now, if we look back at our event def, for our inbound event def, the proc name is inbound. If the proc name does not include a module name, i.e. it does not include a full stop or period, like tasks.inbound, then the assumed module is tasks.py. So the fully qualified module name is logic.demo.tasks. When we open up the logic demo tasks.py script, we'll see the definition of our inbound function, def inbound, and they always pass in an event, which is the event that you create as the single parameter. And so you can see in this file that we have an inbound function, an outbound function, and a transfer function to provide the functionality for our inbound, outbound, and transfer event types. So now let's demonstrate a scenario. First of all, I'm going to start the Warehouser server by saying Python manage.py run server, one word, hit enter. Like in the previous video, I'll be using HTTP YAK to execute API calls. You may choose whichever REST service client you wish and follow along. In my logic demo REST directory, I have a auth HTTP file, which I have declared an auth token variable, which is the authorization token of our demo user. In the previous video, we executed all the API calls to declare our warehouse defs, our product defs, and our event defs. And we also set up our initial environment, which included a warehouse building. And nested within the warehouse building, we had a loading area we called Dock A, and a bin that we called A01-01-01. Now let's see how we can use events and event processes to manage our warehouse as we accept a supplier delivery and fulfill a customer order. Our warehouse opens for business one day, and a purchase order comes in from head office to notify us to expect a delivery of chocolate bars from our favorite supplier. And I will pass in a body of JSON data or data that will look like this. What I'm doing here is defining a supplier, chocolates are us, and an array of item descriptions, which includes each item description, although there's only one, has an external ID, which is optional, but definitely a def, which is standing for definition. We use DFN rather than DEF because DEF is a keyword for Python. So we ignore that. But this is the definition ID of the chocolate bar product def. So we're getting some chocolate bars and the quantity is 1. We're getting 1 chocolate bar. And there's only one item in this purchase order, so that's that. And we set the parent to null, and we give a value, which is just a description of this event. This is the event value. So now I'm going to run it. And now you can see that it's returned with a positive result. We have our purchase order. If we go to our database and look at our events, now we have created a purchase order event. This is a notification event, and the way you tell that is because there is no proc underscore name. Proc underscore name is null, so it's not set. So that means that there was no process to be run. This is just a notification event, a heads up that there will be a delivery soon. Speaking of which, to do that, we call the /API/event-defs/ and we'll pass in the purchase order event def ID /do_spawn/ and we pass in the body of data to describe our product, our purchase order. And that includes a value, which we supply a descriptive string to describe this purchase order event, and options, which is the JSON field that we supply our own specific data, and a parent. But because there is no parent for this purchase order, it is the top parent, if you will. We pass in a null value for the parent. Excuse me. And then within the options, we declare a supplier name, which is Chocolates Are Us, and an items array. And each item array entry has a definition which supplies the ID of the product def and a quantity. So we're going to, in this case, get one quantity of chocolate bars. And we can see that we get a purchase order as a response with our options, the item array, like we supplied. Now imagine sometime later a truck arrives to deliver that purchase order. Here we will create an inbound event. Again, we will call the /API/event-defs/ but this time pass in the inbound event def ID and append the /do_spawn/ endpoint. And this time we will pass in this body of JSON data. This includes a value, which is a description that describes this event, and an options JSON field with the custom data for this event type. Remember, a truck contains product and/or containers and is therefore a warehouse. So we will actually be inbounding a transport warehouse into the loading area called Dock A. Here is the DFN for definition value to say that this is a transport warehouse def ID, and a data dictionary which defines values for the transport warehouse instance. Here we supply a value, which we imagine to be the license plate number of the truck, and a parent, which is the ID of the Dock A warehouse to which this truck is pulling up to make its delivery. So now I will run that script. And so now we have an inbound event, and the value is ABC-123. And if we go to the database, we see that a new inbound event has been created. And if we see the proc name, its proc name is out inbound. And that means that when this was created, the Warehouser server ran the logic.demo.tasks.inbound code, which we can see here. And therefore, it has successfully run this code. What this code does is it creates a new warehouse, which you can see here. It creates instance. So not only did this event create the event, but it's also now created a warehouse because of its process. And we can see the warehouse ID number has been put into the event options JSON field under the result. So if we return to the database, we can see that a new event has been created of type inbound, and that its proc underscore name value is also inbound, which means that when this event was created, the Warehouser server executed the code that it found in logic.demo.tasks.inbound. And what that code does is it creates a new warehouse, and it stores the value of the ID of that warehouse in the event options result field. And so again, going back to this database, we can expand this. We can see in options right here, if we scroll over, we see results, and in there is an ID. And if we copy this ID, copy, and then we go to the warehouses and we search, we can see that the transport has been created with the ABC123 license plate number. And we can also see that its parent ID is the parent ID pointing to the loading area with the value of dock A. So our ABC123 transport vehicle is now at dock A. So now we have the truck at dock A, and now it needs to deliver the box of chocolates. To unload the box from the truck onto dock A, we are going to again use the inbound event def, and we're going to pass in the data payload. This time though, we are going to provide the package warehouse def ID for the DFN value. And for our data payload, we're going to say box, give it a name, and we're going to place it on dock A. And we're going to also provide some information that it came from the transport or the truck that we just found. And we're providing a non-bound value of true. We're also going to provide a parent value, which is this event is a child of the incoming transport event that we just created. So let's run that script. And we can see that we have again an inbound, but now a box 001, and we can look at the events and refresh, and we've got a new inbound event of box, excuse me, unload box from truck at dock A. So if we look at the warehouses, we have a package because we created a package and called it box underscore 001. And its parent is loading area called dock A. So now we have both the transport truck and the package that it just delivered at loading dock A. So now the delivery truck driver is busy and he has to make other deliveries. So we're going to say goodbye to the transport vehicle. Now we will create an outbound event using the outbound event def, and we will provide the data payload that includes a descriptive value specifying dock A as the location the event takes place, an options payload that to tell Warehauser that it is the truck that is leaving, and a parent event to tie this event with the truck inbound event from before. So we'll just run that, and you can see that we have a new outbound event. Its parent was the inbound event that was the truck coming in. It happened at the loading area, dock A, and if we look at the events and we refresh it, we'll see that we have an outbound event, and it's transport 001 departs from dock A. And if we look at the warehouses, we'll see that I'll just refresh it to make sure that we see that there is no transport. We used to have a transport vehicle here, and there's no transport anymore. So it has left. But we still have the package that it left behind. That's box underscore 001. So it has made a successful delivery. So now we have a box of some description sitting on our dock A loading area. Our next task is to inbound the product contained within the box. But before we can do that, we need somewhere to put that product. And so we need to create a package in which to put it. In order to create that package, we're going to invoke the event def inbound and provide the necessary data payload. And we are going to create a package type of warehouse. We're going to call it a package underscore 002. It's going to be at dock A, and we're going to provide a parent for this event for purchase order to say that this is in relation to the purchase order that we received before. And so I will again run this script. You can see that it's an inbound event, and its parent was the purchase order that we did before, and that it's got the name of package 002. If we go to the events, I will refresh, and we can see that we have an inbound package 002. And if we see its parent ID, we can see that that was the purchase order that we did before, and that if we look at the options, we can see the result ID is this value here, which we can carry over to the warehouses, and we can see that we have a package that has been created with calling it package underscore 002, and that its parent is the loading area. So now we have the loading area that has two packages, one being the box that was delivered by the transport truck, and one now being this package that we just created, both at Dock A. Now we have product in the box that we need to inbound count and put into the package. We will create a transfer event, this time to transfer a quantity of one product of definition chocolate bar from box 01 to package 002 and set the parent to the purchase order event from before. So we run that script and we see that it's a transfer event. And the parent is the purchase order, that it has the description of that we supplied it. And if we go to the events and make another refresh, we have a transfer event. If we scroll over, transfer product 01 from box 1 to package 2, and its parent is the purchase order. If we look at the options, we see the result gives an idea of this, which is the product. So when we see the product, we see that there's a chocolate bar with that ID, and that it has a quantity of 1, and that its warehouse ID, if we copy that and bring it over to the warehouses, we can see that it's in package 002. Now that we have finished inbounding all the products from the purchase order, we can dispose of the box that the truck delivered. So again, we're going to do another outbound event, and we're going to outbound the box. The box is currently at Dock A. This is where the event is taking place, and we're going to dispose of box 001, and we're going to tie this event to the box inbound event so that it ties back neatly to that. So we just run that and we have a new event. It's an outbound event. It it occurred at the loading area, which will be the dock A, and we gave it a nice title. And if we go over to core event, we refresh it, we see we have a new, we have a new outbound event. And if we expand this, we see the options that says the warehouse that was outbounded. If we go and search for that, it should not appear because it's gone. So there's no box 001 anymore. There's still package 002, but box 001 has disappeared. So finally, we want to transfer the product from the package into the storage bin. So we have to do another transfer event. Again, it will be given a title, and we're transferring the chocolate bars from package 2 into the bin, and we have 1. We'll transfer 1. And this is in relation to the purchase order from before. So running that, we see that we got another transfer event. Its parent is the purchase order, and it has the description we had. And if we go to the event and we refresh, we see that we have our transfer event here. If we go back and expand this and see the options, we got the result and the ID. If we copy that and we go to the product, if we go to product, we see that the product is now chocolate bar. As before, its quantity is 1, and its warehouse ID, if we copy that and go to warehouse and we look up that, we see that it is in the bin. We have now shown how to use events and event processing to inbound a purchase order. In the next video, we will demonstrate the outbound of products for customer orders. Remember to subscribe and select all notifications, and until then, happy warehousing.